Jason Rzucidlo, reporting from the 2016 SAE Convergence from its new home at the Suburban Collection in Novi. Let's check out the Automotive Innovators panel discussion.
We're focused on ensuring that the sensors are going to be reliable and that they perform like they need to for automotive applications. One of the most important sensors on an autonomous vehicle is LiDAR. That's why we partnered and invested in Velodyne, one of the most prominent LiDAR manufacturers in the world. And we're very excited about that partnership. And we're looking for that to help drive the cost down as well as the features of that LiDAR sensor to be tailored to our application and our need. Sensing and perception needs to be it needs to be really good. It can't just be kind of good. I mean, it has to be really good. And so the perception that happens or occurs because you've programmed the vehicle to sense its environment and know it's there, fusing signals from multiple types of sensors, doing the machine learning algorithms that can interpret what's going on accurately, tell the computers in the vehicle not only what the objects are, but what their intent is. So you can appropriately plan a path for safe navigation. That's some sophisticated algorithms and pretty hard work. And we're partnering with a company that's been doing it for a long time. A startup that came out of Israel, Sipes. They're going to help us implement computer vision and machine learning algorithms into our autonomous vehicle, as well as some organic capability from our own team. So we're excited about the promise of making that happen. And then, ultimately, this freedom we're talking about is about giving people time back and giving them great experiences. So there's a whole lot of work to be done to understand what the scenarios are that you might encounter so that you give the rider or the passenger a really good experience as they enter the vehicle, what they want to see and experience in the back seat. How can they trust the service so that it can be safe and secure? And that work has to be done over the course of the next several years by focusing on not miles driven, but on scenarios experienced. As you experience those scenarios, then programming in the algorithms to have the best experience.
Later this year, we'll launch the all-electric Chevrolet Bolt EV, which will offer 238 miles of pure electric range at a price around $30,000 after the federal tax credit. Obviously, states will have incentives on top of that. By putting truly cutting-edge technology within the reach of so many customers, the Chevrolet Bolt EV will be the first electric vehicle to crack the code of affordability and long range. Another important change is the growth of transportation as a service, sort of like software as a service. Today, an estimated 15 million people around the world use shared mobility services such as ride sharing and car sharing. By 2020, this number is expected to be more than 50 million people. To capitalize on this, GM launched a car sharing service this year called Maven. By the end of the year, we expect Maven to be operating in Europe, Australia, Brazil, Canada, and 12 US cities. In the ride-sharing space, we entered into a strategic alliance with Lyft, one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing ride-share company in the US. Together, we plan to create an integrated network of on-demand shared mobility. GM's involvement with self-driving cars dates back to the DART Urban Challenge in 2007. But to sharpen our focus on the engineering of autonomous systems in vehicles, early this year, GM created a new autonomous vehicle development team to lead activities that span from electrical controls and software to safety and integration and vehicle development. All of these crucial elements to realize the promise of autonomous vehicles. In 2017, we'll take an important step towards self-driving vehicles when we introduced Super Cruise technology on the Cadillac CT6. Super Cruise is a driving system that automates highway driving even in stop-and-go traffic. We also acquired Cruise Automation this spring, adding its depth in software and rapid development capability to further accelerate our autonomous vehicle program. We are now road testing Chevrolet Bolt EV autonomous test vehicles in San Francisco and Scottsdale, Arizona. We believe the convergence of ride-sharing and autonomous vehicles offers great opportunities to improve safety, reduce congestion, and enhance transportation freedom for everyone, including the elderly and disabled. So, as we confront a sea change in personal transportation, what does this mean for the industry? Well, as Dick Tracy might have said, what are you waiting for? This latest technological wave presents significant opportunities, which I believe could be just as, or possibly even more compelling than the revolution that has taken place around electrification. I'm genuinely excited about the future of personal mobility, what it holds for our industry, and I'm eager to hear and see how all of you here are going to make that real. Thank you very much.
So first of all, reimagining the car of the future. Ken mentioned the word freedom, and I think that's probably the most fundamental word that's going to apply in the future is not only a safe car, not only hopefully a much more efficient driving pattern with autonomous cars in the future, but we think it's really going to free up a driver and passengers to really gain from the time in a car in a much more effective way. So we look at that in a couple ways. Productivity in the car, rather than straining and stressing over traffic and figuring out your route, you can actually take time and do conferences, work on key work that has to get done, really make productive use of the time that you're in the car. Secondly, leisure and entertainment, relaxation. Of course, this is something Harman thinks an awful lot about as we're looking at ways to deliver audio experiences in a car, video experiences in a car, and great user experiences. So I think that's going to be a very interesting and key possibility in the future. So really reimagining that is an important thing for us to do in the industry, and determining how we're going to get there is the next step. So the next step is the evolution. And for us, for Harman, the first focus area in that evolution is building a foundation for the connected car. And when we do that, we're talking about enabling the connected car. There's no way around the fact that a connected car doesn't happen without embedded telematics. And you heard Jon talk about OnStar, and we see a big transition to embedded telematics. But the current situation is a pretty small percentage of cars have embedded telematics, which is a fundamental requirement for the types of user experiences and autonomous drive technologies to be there. So we are focused on investing in our technologies, whether that's the embedded modem or the software or the cloud solutions that are part of telematics. Secondly is over-the-air update. I think this is a really exciting promise of a connected car is a system that's fresh, that's up to date, that has the latest software, whether that's safety related, whether that's entertainment related. We've been focused very heavily on our investment in over-the-air updates. Recently acquired a company by the name of Redbend, Israeli-based company that is a market leader in over-the-air updates. So helping, again, to build that enablement platform. The final part of enablement is cybersecurity. And again, this is the fact that cars become ubiquitously connected raises a lot of risky potential for penetration within the car, potential hacker activity. Again, we focus on building a multi-layer cybersecurity platform, again, including not just our own internal technologies, but also bringing in partnerships and acquisitions. We just acquired a company by the name of TowerSec about 6 months ago that offer what we think is an industry-best network-level cybersecurity solution. So again, that's sort of the foundation. When we look at infotainment, that is transitioning to a really much more rich, integrated compute platform. And I think you're going to see a big transition over time from all embedded software to this interplay between offboard and onboard computing platforms. And I'm sure that'll be an interesting discussion as we go through the rest of the panel discussion. So the last point that I mentioned was humanizing the connected car and through user experience. Again, it was mentioned earlier, but I think it's so critically important. I think if we're all honest in the automotive space, user experience has a long way to go. It's the #1 complaint. If you look at field complaints about vehicles these days, it's voice technology, it's non-intuitive user interfaces, and really non-seamless integration of a lot of third-party technologies. So we at Harman are investing heavily in building user experience design practices, technologies, intellectual property to take user experience to the next level. And I think that ability to bring all these partners into the ecosystem in a car, but to provide an experience for a consumer where it feels like it's one thought-through solution is a great opportunity for us. So
I hear a lot of skepticism out there. In fact, I'm right now engaged in a big argument on Facebook about whether we're going to see fully level 4 and 5 autonomous cars in our lifetime. I'm even arguing against somebody whose hashtag is notgonnahappen.com. So Ken, what would you say to these people?
In the history of technology, surprised often by the speed at which it matures. And I think autonomous vehicles is going to be another example of that. What I don't want to do is leave you with the impression that getting there is going to be easy, because it won't be. But as long as we fully embrace the appropriate approach for geofencing an area and applying those autonomous vehicles in that geofenced area where you have a high definition map and when sensors can operate at their full capability. If you just track how the technology is advancing between machine learning and the performance of LiDAR sensors and the ability to do high resolution mapping rapidly and keep it fresh, our strategic partnership with Civil Maps is going to help us do that. And there are many other ways you can keep a map fresh, and connectivity in the vehicles is going to increase, and so you can move that information in and out of the vehicle. So I am very optimistic that the target of 2021 is very achievable, and we're committed to it.
There are lots of individual pieces of technology that have to be developed, and gesture recognition is one of them. It certainly is something that we know has to be developed. And so I think there are lots of technologies out there that can help us sooner rather than later with something like that. I already mentioned that, that we've got test vehicles, Chevrolet Bolt EVs, on the road in San Francisco and Scottsdale. And I can assure you our plan is not to test them for the next 30 years. So, progress is going to come far faster than that. Perhaps not as fast as some of us would hope, but certainly quite a bit faster than I think some of the pessimists think.
The idea is to finish out the last mile for their mass transportation system. And assuming it's successful, the next 3 years after that would be an island-wide adaptation of automated vehicles. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll have our first vehicles running here shortly there, and we'll continue to learn and cycle through there. I certainly agree. There's work to be done. But if you think about the barriers that we've typically thought about, a regulatory environment, a legal framework, and how much will the consumer pay, the mobility on demand, the ride sharing pulled forward makes those three things a lot easier to think about, right? The regulatory environment in a city, state, or even a dense urban environment in the United States can be changed relatively quickly, almost overnight if you wanted to. Legal framework, you still got legal reliability issues, but much less because it's lower speed, more of a controlled environment. And then what will the consumer pay? If the economics model works, and the consumer is the benefactor of that, right? And the business model, the people who put the business models in place are effective, then here we go. And 30 years, it's going to be here very shortly.
Well, I think I agree with the other panelists that it's certainly going to be inside of the 30-year window. But I do believe that there will be a long transition to a high population. of autonomous cars. And what we're seeing is this transition through semi-autonomous vehicles over time. And I think that's a really important transition that we have to go through. And how do we deal with real big challenges that will be faced? And interaction between drivers and semi-autonomous cars, and engagement of a driver with a semi-autonomous car is a very big issue. This whole user experience side, and how do we manage safely engaging with a car that goes into the so-called autopilot mode. I think that's going to be a very interesting transitional process. To give you one example of a technology that we're working on to help with the safety side of this transition phase is pupil monitoring. There have been great studies that correlate pupil dilation with cognitive load. And so we're developing a technology that can utilize that input from pupil monitoring to give alerts to the vehicle or to the driver to more actively or less actively engage with the car. So I do believe that 30 years might be closer to a more complete car park of autonomous cars. And so we're really looking at that transition as an opportunity to create solutions.